I'm with Junior Achievement in Manitoba, and I want to just welcome everybody to JA Manitoba's second of three World of Choices Career Expos presented by RBC. First off, we want to thank RBC, of course, for all their support, and as well as CNE for their financial support of this event and our other ones. The goal of World of Choices is simple. We want to inspire you to learn all that you can about different career paths and gain insight, knowledge, and resources necessary to pursue your dreams after high school. We're really excited about these terrific speakers, and we know this is a great opportunity for all of you to learn about some fascinating careers. After each speaker presents, you'll be given an opportunity to ask questions in the chat box, so please do that. Last session, we had lots of fantastic questions, and our answers were just as good. At the end of the session, your teacher will have a digital survey for you to fill out, and we certainly thank you for your response. Lastly, we want to acknowledge we are on treaty territory and that we are all treaty people, and JA Manitoba acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. Okay, to begin, we're going to start off with a short video from our sponsor, RBC Future Launch.
And reaching even more youth across the country. We brought together industry experts and young professionals for a virtual summit.
People are actually more open to having a Skype or a FaceTime or an online conversation because people are looking for that connectivity. You go to RBC Future Launch's website, it's a whole roster of deliberate networking programs.
We've committed to helping BIPOC youth transformative pathways to prosperity.
Black woman is the most vulnerable person out here. Black woman is the most unprotected person out here. It needs to be us as teams united in solidarity and pushing forward and using our platforms and our voices together.
As of today, we've created a network of community partners, invested in programs and resources across the country, developed new resources with industry partners, and we've reached 2.5 million young Canadians, and we're just getting started. Future. I'm coming for you. See the future of Canada's youth today. Visit rbc.com/futurelaunch.
Okay, we're going to get started right away. Our first speaker is Derek Rolstone. Derek is the owner of Stone Strategies, which is a full-service human resources consulting organization based right here in Winnipeg. Prior to that, he worked in very senior roles with Bell, Transex, and Pepsi, among others. Welcome, Derek. You're on.
Derek, you're muted.
I thought you were going to unmute me. Okay. Sorry for the slip up. Hey, Greg, thanks very much for having me. I'm a big believer and big supporter of junior achievement. And thanks to RBC for putting this on. You might not believe it, but Greg and I actually went to high school together. You'd think he's much younger than me, but we're the same age. And I got involved in junior achievement in the 1980s. I wanted to learn about business, but because we went to an all boys school, it was also to meet girls. And I achieved both goals. And in a foreshadowing, in 1985, I was vice president of the year of junior achievement in Manitoba. So I'm always happy to come back and give back to the organization. I wanted to talk a little bit about my career history. I was pretty lucky. I got to go away to university. I know that not everyone gets to do that, but that really was a fork in the road for me. I went to University of Western Ontario, and that was a great growing up experience. And then, someone was just asking me earlier today how I got into HR. I did a master's degree in business and learned not just about HR, but more specifically about business, which has always helped me in my HR career. There's some folks I've worked with in human resources that they don't really know that much about business. They know about human resources, which I think most of you maybe know, but just in case you don't, HR is about working with companies, working with managers on hiring, on training, on managing the people, sometimes on discipline, sometimes on pay. Pay and benefits was my original background when I started out at Cargill. It's about doing labor relations or employee relations in a unionized setting. So I've got some experience in that. Sometimes employees have discipline, sometimes employees have to be terminated. And although I call that saying goodbye better as opposed to firing. Everything we do in human resources should be about, and when I used to teach at Red River College, and I'm sure some of my clients now get tired of hearing me say it, but everything we do is about attracting, retaining, and engaging our employees. So that's really what HR is about. So like I said before, I found over the years that sometimes HR people, they don't know enough about the business. So I'd encourage you, if you go into this area, if you go into human resource management, I'd encourage you to go into it. It's fun. It's fun every day. Sometimes you get yelled at, and sometimes you have to deal with really tough situations. Sometimes employees, sometimes managers do stupid things, and you're in there. Sometimes you're trying to do strategic, setting up new programs, but sometimes you're in there fighting fires too. And every day is different. So that's what I like about human resource management. The other thing, Greg, that I wanted to talk about a little bit is I have some experience in hiring people. Sometimes in my business, so I've got an HR consulting firm. I work with about 160 different companies in Manitoba and elsewhere, mostly here in Winnipeg. Not every company has an HR person. Not every company is Investors Group or Canada Life, where they have whole departments. Some companies just have 30 or 40 employees and they need some HR help from time to time. So we do that. I started this business while I was a prof at Red River College, and it grew a little bit bigger. And so that's what I do every day. I've looked at hundreds of thousands of resumes. Most of them are not good, right? People don't spend enough time on their resume, or they do a resume that is, they've got it set in stone and they use it to apply for every job that they apply for. Whether they're young, just starting out your career, I get that. Some of you don't have that much stuff to put on your resume, but you have transferable skills. You have things that you've done as a volunteer, or sports that you've been involved in, or leadership things that you've done that can go on a resume. That stuff's important. As you get further on in your career, some things come off the resume. That's okay too. But I'll tell you, I get resumes daily that don't look good, that people haven't spent time putting together. Spend time on your resume. I find errors in resumes all the time. Greg and I learned grammar from Jesuit priests. So we are very picky about our grammar. And when I see people spelling color wrong, or center, or they spell a lot of people, they think they're managers, but they put on their resume that they're managers, right? Spell check doesn't work when you put that on there. So spend time on it and get your mom or dad or boyfriend or sister to look over your resume. Make sure that it's error-free. Maybe you've got periods at the end of the bullets. Maybe you don't. Either one is fine, but pick one, be consistent. And then I guess the third thing I'd say on resumes that a lot of them are missing is facts and numbers and dollar signs and percentages. And I recognize that people that are just starting out in their career, they don't have a ton to put in there, but wherever you can put in content, that you were part of a team at Subway that grew the business by 10%, put that in there. Put that kind of stuff on your resume. It will set you apart from your competitors. And I can tell you, as a hiring manager, that expectations are pretty low out there in terms of the generation. So anything you can do to stand out against your peers, against your competitors, anything that you can do to show that you're better, that you've spent the time on it. If you can write a decent cover letter that doesn't have grammatical errors in it, a cover letter will set you apart. It shows that you're taking it seriously. Even if it's an entry-level job, even if it's a part-time job, spend the time on it. If you're qualified and interested, you can set yourself apart by doing the work. So that's my sermon on resumes. In terms of education, like I said, I was pretty lucky. I got to go away. I got to do a master's degree. Not everyone needs that. I taught at Red River College for 4 years in their program, which is great. They got a great 2-year business program. If you're not sure what to do, right? And not everyone is when they're 17 or 18 years old. I get that. If you're not sure what to do, go to business school for 2 years. You'll get a good education. And if you're really good at it and you like it, you can transfer. A lot of people don't know this. You can transfer all of your credits from Red River College to the Asper School of Business, which is a great, great program, one of the best in Canada. And you can go directly into third year and do 2 years at the Asper School. And then you've got a Bachelor of Commerce, which is a great degree to have. So that's my bias. That's my viewpoint. Hopefully I haven't gone on too long, Greg. I bet you some people maybe have some questions that we could talk about. Or is there anything else you want me to talk about?
No, you know what? We've got a pile of questions flying in. So you touched on cover letters. One of the questions is, are they still a thing? Are they required? Do they make sense?
Yeah. Some people think they aren't. And I know it can be confusing for folks when it gets asked for, but like Greg, you and I used to do our resumes on like an Olivetti typewriter, right? Now, obviously people don't, but resumes have not disappeared. Resumes are still important, right? The best way for people to get jobs, frankly, isn't by applying on Indeed. That's one way. The best way for people to get jobs at the senior level or the entry level is through referrals, right? And through connections. Build up your connections, get onto LinkedIn, right? The more connections you have through some complicated algorithms that you have on LinkedIn, the easier it is for people to find you. Put a nice, take your resume and use that content to make a nice LinkedIn page. And for heaven's sake, I know I'm going off topic here, but maybe it'll be interesting. Like, be very careful of what you have posted, right? And I'm not just talking about LinkedIn or Facebook, but like Instagram, like, my daughter works for my corporation. She's a first-year U of M student, and she finds all kinds of weird stuff that people have posted, and companies check this stuff, right? I found one the other day where the person had really, really well done drawings on their site, but they were of the devil, right? And, employers don't love that, right? Or if you've got, pictures of you throwing up, that's not great to have on your social media presence. So I would really guard that stuff. Back to the question. Yeah, if you can write a good cover letter, it's not that hard. Put the time in, build a template. And if you provide that, even if it's not asked for, believe me, recruiters and hiring managers will notice.
Perfect. Okay, people are always, I read online and someone's asking, prospective employees in the job interview at the end are supposed to ask some articulate, intelligent question about, the employee, the company's sort of vision and what it is, that relevant? And if it is, what should a student be asking a prospective employer at the end of the job interview?
Such a good question. First of all, I'll tell you what it shouldn't be, and that's asking about money. If it was, it probably was posted. If it wasn't, they probably should have told you about it. I hope they did, but they need to tell you as opposed to you asking them. I just did an interview late yesterday with someone for a more senior position. And when it came time to questions, we probably answered some of his questions throughout the interview. But he asked a good question. Tell me about the culture. What do you guys do for fun around here? That's a great question. Here's another one. Tell me how would my onboarding training work? That's a great question. How would you judge my performance in the first 3 months? What kinds of things would you look for? That's a good question too. The fellow yesterday was asking, what are your 3 biggest priorities for this company for this year? Those are all good questions, and shows that you care. It shows you did some research. The other thing, Greg, you could think about from a research perspective is maybe ask a very specific question about something you read. I heard that your company just bought this other company in Ireland. How's that working out? Right? It shows that you've done some work.
For sure. Okay, another question. How do you feel about soft skills? How do you hire based off of those, if at all?
Like with
I think they're referring to specifically, your community activities. Perhaps you've been involved in arts or sports in that, and it may not be totally relevant to the job, but it's showing your activity.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I alluded to it a little bit in my sermon a few minutes ago. It absolutely, that stuff helps, especially if you don't have a huge body of work in terms of, because you're starting out in your career. So, if you were the starting setter for the Kelvin volleyball team, put that on there. Any awards that you got, or you were involved in scouts or ultimate frisbee, or you reached grade 10 in piano, all that stuff is good. People like that. I would also say, people want to see that you're well-rounded, right? And on my resume at the bottom under interests, it says that I have that I like motorcycles, and I like squash, and I like Duke basketball. Well, if I meet someone in the lobby and they're going to interview me, and they have a motorcycle, we're talking about motorcycles. So anytime you can put that stuff on there and get a bit more specific, as opposed to saying I like reading or I like travel, get a bit more specific on that stuff, and it makes you it's an icebreaker.
Yeah. Okay. 2 questions, and I know you've talked a lot about what's important on a resume. What is something that can make my resume stand out from everyone else's? And the second part of that is, what is the weirdest job you've ever seen on a resume, and should it have been on there or not?
Yeah, those are great questions. We could talk all morning about resumes and stupid stuff that I've seen. I had one just the other day where the guy just went off on this weird, it's like my teenage daughters say, like TMI, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy went off on his resume on just some kind of weird thing about how he was raising his maybe that doesn't need to go on there. You don't have to have the exact date. I worked here from January 13th to February 28th. You don't need that level of detail. So that, Greg, that all goes back into always think of the reader, right? So if you're trying to think of free tips from Derek, what's a takeaway from this? Always think of the reader, and how can I make it easy? And the reader might be the hiring manager, but it might be Sally. She's just a first year HR assistant, just graduated from the Asper School of Business. How can we make it easier for her to understand that you're the right person for the job? So anything you can do to show not just that you can do the job, but that you've actually done this job is probably in your interest.
That's perfect. Okay, last one. So you hire people for companies. How much money do you make when you hire somebody? So I'll be a little more specific. Let's say you're hiring, you know, a $75,000 a year employee for a company in Brandon.
Yeah.
Forget what the company does. What do you make? That's what the question is.
Oh, what do I make it? Oh, it's all, that's all confidential.
Can you give us a range?
I do okay. You know, there's people out there that are what's called headhunters that some of you might have heard of, and they charge a lot of money. It's usually, like you said, $75,000. They take the person's salary and they charge a percentage of it, right? Sense. They might charge 20 or 25%. Okay. And that's okay for, you know, for a company like Cargill, but companies that I work for that have 30 or 40 employees, they don't love that model. We charge an hourly rate, or we might charge a flat fee, but much less than 20%. So in that example you gave, it depends, right? Consultant answer, it depends. It depends how much work it was. It depends how much we had to spend on advertising, right? We might charge the client, it might be $1,000. We might be lucky, right? But just to be clear, we don't charge the candidate, right? It's the company that pays. Right, the candidate does not pay, and in fact, that's illegal. So the candidate doesn't pay; the client does. It might be $1,000, it might be $7,000. It's not $20,000, but you know we do. You know we've done 700 successful searches in the last 8 years.
Wow, good for you. Okay, last question for you. Obviously, Indeed is the one I think that most people are aware of, but the question is there anywhere else I should be looking online for potential jobs this summer?
These are such good questions, Greg. I'm not surprised. I'm pleased at how good these questions are. Like, I love Indeed. You know, I brag every day that we are the biggest users of Indeed in Manitoba. Like, I spend almost $1,000 a day on Indeed, right? And it all goes on I've got millions of Avion points that I have nowhere to spend. Everyone goes to Indeed by far. You know, it used to be, you know, people on the Zoom might not understand this. You used to post things in the Winnipeg Free Press. They had a big Saturday career section, and people would pay like $1,000 and get an eighth of a page ad, and then you'd wait, you know, by the fax machine with your rosary beads out and wait for resumes to come in. It's not like that anymore, right? Indeed peaks at 8:30 on Monday morning and 4:30 on Friday afternoon. People are like, they've already left, or maybe they're still at work and they're like, oh my God, I can't work here another week, right? So people go on to Indeed, especially people working from home, and they're going on, and it's about 50-50 between telephone and computer in terms of people going on Indeed. But to finally answer the question, yes, everything goes to Indeed now. Right? Like it or not, that's how it's done. We've got 16 postings on Indeed right now.
Wow.
For different clients.
Wow. All right. Well, I just want to reiterate what Derek said. Mondays at 8:30, Fridays at 4:30 on Indeed, right?
That's when there's most people. People are looking all the time, but that's when it peaks. Yeah, because everyone's just one. I think everyone's just one bad conversation away from looking for a new job, and people don't. Greg, I bet you'd agree with me. People don't quit companies; they quit managers.
Of course.
And I've done it, and you've probably done it too.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So be a good manager, or your people are going to start looking.
All right, I gotta cut the questions off. We gotta get on to our next one. This was fantastic, Derek.
It's such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on. Our next speaker is, excuse me, Kelli from Sugar Blossom Jewelry. She's been designing jewelry with a passion of creating fun and fashion-forward pieces. What started as assembling her own jewelry from her mom's jewelry box and vintage pieces has now blossomed into something pretty big that more than she imagined, selling to large retailers and boutiques all across North America. Welcome, Kelli.
Hi.
Welcome.
So, how are you?
We're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was just going to talk a little bit about how I got into creating jewelry and starting my business. So I actually went to Dakota Collegiate in Winnipeg. And when I was there, I used to model when I was in high school. So during the summers, I would go away and I would usually go to like Asia. So I kind of learned the fashion industry from a young age, of kind of what everything was involved. And I knew that I wanted to continue to be involved in the industry, but I didn't know in what capacity. I went to U of M my first year of university, and I actually felt kind of lost there. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I was taking business courses, but it wasn't really exactly what I envisioned myself doing. And then one day I was in an elective class, and there was these girls behind me that I didn't know. They were talking about Ryerson and the fashion program that they had there, and that it was the only university in Winnipeg where you could get, or in Winnipeg, sorry, in Canada, where you can get a degree for fashion. So I went home as soon as I was done class that day, and I Googled it, and there was only a week left to apply for that the coming year. And so I ran around my house for like 2 days putting together a portfolio and somehow got into the school. So then I moved to Toronto and I studied fashion at Ryerson for 4 years. When I was in Toronto, I've always had a passion for making jewelry and creating things. So I've been doing that since I was little, just like taking things apart and putting it back together. And so I did the same thing when I was in Toronto all the time. I would take apart jewelry and remake things to create like something unique. And it started getting kind of funny. Like I'd be walking down the street and people would ask me all the time if they could buy a necklace off of me or a bracelet. One lady stopped me on Bloor Street and asked me if she could buy a bracelet off my wrist for like $500. And that's when I kind of knew that I wanted to continue to create jewelry for a living. Once I graduated from university, I worked as a fashion stylist for several years. And while I did that on the side, I started making jewelry, and it got busier and busier. I first started making these like fabric kind of braided bracelets. And I think my mom and I probably we were talking about it. We think we probably handmade probably over 100,000 of these bracelets. And it was getting really crazy. At one point, I remember at the end of one year, we were like, we literally couldn't make any more bracelets. Like we made the max possible. And we were both feeling like we were getting like arthritis. We were just like, we can't continue to do this. And also, it wasn't like I couldn't scale my business with making everything by hand. I needed to find a manufacturer. So I had been looking for manufacturers for a long time. It's really hard to find one that you trust and that's makes it the same quality that you make it, because I put a lot of pride into the quality of my product. So we went everywhere looking for factories. Like I originally wanted to keep it manufactured in Canada, but at the price point we were selling at it was really hard to do that. I even had a Haderite colony. We hired one time. I went down there and we made thousands of bracelets, but the quality just wasn't good. My mom and I ended up taking apart every single one of those bracelets and remaking them. After that, it took me a few years, but I finally found a factory that I'm super happy to be working with. They are in China, but it's a very ethical factory. They pass all their audits. It's mostly like female ran. So I'm really proud to work with them. And so after working with them for a few years, it's really like opened up a lot of doors for me, because now we can sell wholesale. Now, after that, I was able to like hire some employees. And so I hired on my first employee, and she helped me brand my business and market it in the way that I always wanted to. And we just hired on another employee too. And like during all this time, I've always had dreams of selling jewelry at like stores like Anthropologie and Free People and the Bay and Indigo, and all that came to life in the last few years, which is really cool. Yeah, so we continue.
Zoom here. Let me make sure I'm muted.
Oh, sorry, someone just came on. Yeah, so we continue to sell to large retailers, and we continue to we hand design everything ourselves. We draw everything. And I think that really separates our business from a lot of other companies who just are buying jewelry off of the open market. We actually draw everything and design it down to the millimeter. We also make sure that the quality of our jewelry is up to our standards. Everything's lead free, nickel free, and cadmium free, which is really important to me. And also, yeah, we do third-party testing just to ensure the quality as well too, which is really great. Our next big endeavor is that I've always wanted to open a storefront. So we're working on that right now, and we're hoping to have our store open in June. So yeah, so when I started off, I literally didn't know exactly how to become a jewelry designer. It just kind of, I just kept working really hard, and honestly, a million doors closed for me, and I just knew I really wanted to do this. So I just continued to find a way to make it happen. So yeah, so if there's anything that anyone's ever thinking that they really want to do, I honestly think that anybody can figure out a way to make it work. So as long as you just are really persistent and don't give up, I think anyone can figure out whatever their passion is. So if anyone has any questions for me or anything, I'd be really happy to answer them.
Yeah, we've got lots of questions
Okay.
already. So first one, how do you get your stores to sell your product?
Okay, so it's actually so competitive. So we create line sheets, they're called. So it's basically kind of almost like a catalog that you make. So we'll do a photo shoot, we'll shoot all the jewelry, we'll shoot it on models, we'll shoot it flat lays, and we put together this whole, it's basically like a catalog. In front of me, I just have this is kind of some pictures that we might take, you know what I mean? And then, but on we'll have all the wholesale pricing, and then we just send it out to buyers. So it's hard sometimes to find the buyers' names, and stores like Anthropologie and Free People, those are pretty much the most sought after fashion stores in North America to get into. So sometimes they're getting 1,000 line sheets a day. So you have to really stand out. And we've put a lot of effort into contacting them and getting our brand to stand out to big, large businesses like that.
Awesome. Did you think you would be an entrepreneur, or did you have a dream company you wanted to design for?
I always wanted to own my own business ever since I was little. My dad owned his own business. So I think I just kind of, I don't know, I wasn't nervous to try to start my own thing. And yeah, so I had worked for other people. My first job actually, when I worked as a stylist, my boss for that job, her son was kind of a little bit sick when he was born. And so she took a year off of work. And so I was only, I think I would have been 22, maybe. I would have just graduated from university, and I ran her whole company for 2 years. So I feel for me, that was incredible learning experience. She basically couldn't come to work, and then she was like, do you think you could just take over? And I was like, okay. And I had no idea what I was doing, but for me, that was a great learning experience. It was totally a different business, but I understood how to do books and things like that. I learned really quick. So that was a learning experience for me.
Wow. How do you stay fashion forward in jewelry? How do you predict and understand trends before they are cool?
See, that's a really tricky one. But we spend so much time doing this, researching. We watch all the shows during Fashion Week, all that. Sometimes I do there's different trend forecasting platforms. Sometimes I actually do find I find that sometimes we're too ahead of the trend. I'll find a trend and I'll be I know this is going to be big, and we'll launch it, and it does only okay, and then a year later it's so crazy, but those items are just flying off the shelves. I sometimes think it takes a little bit of time for some trends to become really popular with everybody. Do you know what I mean? There's the really fashion forward people that are on I don't know, Instagram and those things where they're wearing something that's already I don't know, some people are kind of scared to try that trend. And then once it becomes a little bit more mainstream, I feel then people buy it more. So that's one thing we've learned.
Okay. Have you ever thought of going on Dragon's Den?
I have not thought of that.
Okay. Kelly, I have a teenager that is passionate about entrepreneurship. Is there a way that teenagers or young adults can consult with you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like I could share obviously my email with you after, and if anyone ever had any questions, I would be happy to answer anything.
Perfect. Okay. I've got one that I've got to ask you. So just coincidence, we were watching Shark Tank last night, and there's this
Yes.
guy on in the US, and he was going on and on about wanting to manufacture in the US. That was really important to him, and he didn't want to do it overseas. And the Sharks were, you know, like, we respect that. That's great. That's awesome. But like, there's just certain parts of your business that you have to step forward with to create the growth you want in your own country and create the jobs and all that. So my question was it difficult to take it overseas to manufacture in China, as you said you did? And like, was that hard for you to make that decision, or was it pretty easy?
I mean, like for me, like originally, like I wanted to keep it in Canada. I thought it'd be great, but the cost was insane. Like, I'm selling fashion jewelry, and I already had like an established clientele, which were used to a certain price, and then it would be like 10 times the cost. It just like wasn't, no buyer is going to buy a piece of fashion jewelry at the price of like fine jewelry, because that's what it was like ending up being. Also, sometimes I feel like, especially like in certain provinces, like in Manitoba, we don't have, for fashion jewelry, like the resources to like plate like the way that they do. I like literally, if you name a way of having something manufactured, I have tried it. So I just felt like for me, the quality was so good. The cost was great. And I mean, like there is a lot of different types of factories that you can manufacture in China. I think it's not really fair to put everything in one group, because there are such different quality of factories. And I think you have to do your research and figure out, like, are you working with an ethical factory? Are they like providing the proper standards for other employees and everything like that? And the factory we work with does, and I feel really like proud to work with them. So yeah.
Awesome. Did your company grow fast, or was it a struggle to begin?
Like I started off more as a bit of like a hobby kind of thing, and I just got busier and busier. At my job that I used to have, I kept like being like, oh, actually, can I work 3 days now instead of 5 days? And then I was like, can I work 2 days? And then finally it's kind of like nerve wracking to just like quit like a steady income and just go off on your own. So that part was like I was a little nervous, but it was actually kind of crazy. As soon as I would put more effort into my business, like our numbers would just like go up and up, you know what I mean? So I knew as soon as I did it full time, and you're totally like dedicating all your time to one thing, that it would be successful. I also like, I don't know, I always just thought like, there's other brands that obviously do jewelry or whatever else it is that you might be interested in. And sometimes I'd be like, well, like if they could do it, why can't I do it? Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's how everybody should think. Like there's no reason why you're not capable of figuring it out and doing it yourself. You know, if someone else has done it, you can also do it.
That's a great way to end this. That's awesome. That's a great message. Do you want to just maybe tell everybody your email address for those couple of students that maybe wanted to reach out to you?
Yeah, it's Kelli, Kelli, at sugarblossomjewelry.com. And we spell jewelry Jewelry.
Perfect. Thanks so much. That was really fantastic, Kelly.
No problem. Have a great day.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Evan Roskosz. Evan is a real estate investor here in Winnipeg. He buys all types of homes for all kinds of different reasons. Some houses to renovate, some to take down and build infill, some to renovate, some are rentals. So I'm going to welcome Evan.
Hi, Greg. I hope you're well.
We are.
First off, I'd like to thank Junior Achievement for allowing me to speak and to share a little bit about what we do. As you mentioned, my name is Evan Roskosz, and I'm the owner of Paris Developments, an infill real estate development company that focuses on building interesting real estate developments in Winnipeg. We build single and multifamily dwellings in Winnipeg's more affluent, mature communities. So what is infill? Infill development is the process of developing and building properties on parcels within areas that are already developed. So 9 out of 10 times we're demolishing an existing property and rebuilding on that same site, leveraging the infrastructure that's already in place, such as the roads, sewer systems, etc. Our clients get to enjoy the perks of living in newly constructed spaces while also experiencing the benefits of prime locations, mature trees, and other amenities mature communities bring. As Winnipeg is expecting a population increase of roughly 65,000 people from now until 2030, infill development has never been more important. Now, when we consider where our newcomers are going to live, we require suitable housing requirements to facilitate this demand. So to summarize, what we do is we invest in and build luxury housing for a quickly expanding city, and we do it in a way that's appealing and positive for the city of Winnipeg. Now, how do we do this? To expand on our product, we do invest and build luxury custom properties that include unique designs and functions less common in Winnipeg's current infill landscape. That's accomplished by seeking inspiration from really all over the world. And this approach really excites us as we get to watch our ideas come to life. And as a developer, driving by the location of our next project and visualizing the overall shape of the new project, the materials being used, and then watching that vision come to life is really a thrill for us. And it's nothing short of exciting. Another huge thrill for us is experiencing reactions from others who see our projects, whether that is people who might be walking by during construction, or even after the project's built, or they may see our projects online and share comments. And it's just really nice to know that others also appreciate fine infill development. There's times when I'm, designing projects with our team, or I could be on site with the framers during framing phase, or even simply walking through a project to check out the new countertops that were installed. And I can honestly say there's nothing I'd rather be doing in those moments. My start was quite unique, so I'll just divulge a little bit about how I got into this. So in high school, developing real estate or anything related to real estate for that matter did not excite me at all. I was too busy playing football, skateboarding, and it really wasn't until a couple years after high school that I hear what I refer to now as the call. And not to get too off topic here, but this is quite important, especially for the entrepreneurs that are tuning in. The call is basically, a thought impulse or a series of thought impulses that pulls you to someone or something, presenting an interesting challenge or a quest that you just feel must be undertaken. Now, this could be a sport, this could be a business, something online like stocks, but for me, it was real estate. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was about to start the first phase of my journey. So a friend of mine purchased a house to flip, and for some reason, I really gravitated to this. I wasn't handy. I had no handy influences growing up, but watching my friend buy this house, add improvements himself, and then proceed to sell it for a large profit was the coolest thing to me at that time. I used to go there on weekends and nights and help out as much as I can, even though, again, I knew absolutely nothing about real estate or renovating. So after he, finally sold his flip, I just knew I had to find and buy my own property that I could flip myself. At the time, I was currently working as an educational assistant, and I'd spend my evenings and weekends looking at properties and trying to learn as much about them as quickly as I could. After some time, I thought I was ready, so I finally found and bought my first property. And I'll never forget telling my mom what I did and seeing her reaction. The first thing she said was, of course, you don't know what you're doing. And to be honest, she wasn't wrong. I had no tools, no experience. But anyway, I would spend the next year or so investing my evenings and weekends into doing all the work myself on this while working at the school division full time. I finally finished the property and sold it, and I ended up making a whopping $7,000 for a year's worth of work. So that was a bit of a low point, as my expectations were a lot higher, of course. However, I saw this as a learning lesson, and I'm so glad I did, because I proceeded to try again, and the second flip went a lot smoother. So did the third, so did the fourth. I then started purchasing and flipping multiple properties at once and started hiring crews who could do the work and improvements for me on these properties while I focused more on the next phase of purchasing. After a few years of doing this and flipping houses, I started looking at building opportunities. As I liked that you could control the quality of the house and the budgeting of expenses from start to finish. The projects are easier to budget for, as you aren't working with older components like 100-year-old foundations, as an example. So we pivoted and I bought my first property to build on, which was a 62-foot lot in the Crescentwood neighborhood in Winnipeg that I subdivided into two 31-foot lots and proceeded to build our first 2 houses. I then purchased another lot and then another, and much like the flips, the pattern snowballed and we began to build a few at a time, developing systems alongside a recognizable brand. And this is really where we're at today. And when I look back, I just think it's quite interesting how this all started with a friend who decided to flip a house. Any success we've had so far, in my opinion, is really attributed not to dealing with what we know. As you guys see that I knew absolutely nothing about flipping houses or building properties when I first started. The key here is how to deal with your not knowing more than anything else. Now, if you can master how to deal with your not knowing, and if you're prepared to fail, quickly learn, fail again, quickly learn, and continue this cycle upwards, you can really take on and succeed in most things.
Awesome. You want to take a few questions? First one is, what is schooling like for real estate? There's probably a few different avenues, but what are your thoughts on a high school student who's thinking about what you do, and what's the post high school schooling path?
Sure. So considering real estate's extremely diverse, there's many paths you could take. You could flip houses, you can rent them, you can develop them, you can partner up with one partner, with several partners. I would urge you to learn as much about real estate as possible. The good thing is there's platforms like Bigger Pockets, for example. You have YouTube, you have Google. Just Google and learn as much about real estate in the avenues as much as possible. Try to find something that resonates with you. And then, of course, don't be afraid to make that first leap. I think a lot of people get stuck there. They fear, maybe not knowing enough, or they fear making a mistake. And that's what keeps most people from really experiencing that upwards trajectory. So as soon as you have, I guess, an idea what appeals to you, don't be afraid and just hop right in.
Okay. How do you pick your trades for your builds?
Oh, that's interesting. So in the flips, I learned the hard way that the cheapest trade is not the cheapest. It'll probably end up costing you more money. So we don't go for the cheapest bid. What we go for is reputation. We'll always ask for references, and we'll consult at least 3 references. We'll do on-site visits. We'll try to even see that trade's, I guess, a job site that they're currently working on, and try to talk with the builder whether that trade likes that or not, and just try to get a full synthesis before we bring anybody into that circle.
Okay. What was the most difficult flip you've done, and what did you learn from that experience?
Ooh, let me think about it for a sec. I'd have to say the first flip. Went into it completely blind. I kind of wish I took some time to learn more about what I was getting into before I decided to do that. So, it was basically a year wasted. I was in there with no tools. I had to run to Home Depot, buy tools, get back to the site, realize I bought the wrong tool, back to Home Depot, back to the site. I think if I consulted some people that were more knowledgeable than me, it would have been a good hack and a good shortcut. And that's basically the biggest takeaway is don't try to do everything yourself. Consult believable others and really bring them in. And that's the best way to learn as quick as possible.
Okay. Back to sort of schooling, someone's asking, did you take any schooling after high school? And if so, what would be good programs to take?
Sure, that's a great question. So I was exposed to the flips before I entered into a secondary education. So my secondary education was really the School of Hard Knocks. My first few flips really taught me a lot as quickly as possible. However, if I could do it again, I would have absolutely went to university for the networking aspect, just to expand on ideas. Business courses would have absolutely helped. So yeah, that's what I would have done if I could do this again, definitely.
Okay. Where do you get your best design ideas from? And sort of playing on the last speaker about jewelry, how do you know what's the next big trend or what's going to be the next big hit?
Sure. So Instagram's fantastic. If you're a designer and you're in the space and you're good at what you do, you will probably have an Instagram account. So, we leverage social media. We see what people are doing in Paris, for example, what people are doing in New York, what people are doing in LA, how, this kind of rejuvenation of like a Tudor style is really coming back into the fold. You're seeing a lot of arches, swoop gables, curved timbers, and that inspiration is really drawn from all over. but that's really what we do. We keep our finger on the pulse. We have a few, I guess, reference points that we stay close to, and it's really social media as well. Keeps us all connected no matter where you are in the world.
Do you want to mention where people can sort of see the houses that you work on Instagram? What's the handle?
Absolutely. So we are paris.developments, developments with an S. Please follow us. We also have a website, which is parisdevelopments.com. But for the most, I guess, recent updates, definitely check out our Instagram account.
Okay. How do you find new properties when we're talking about infill? I mean, I'm presuming that there isn't a for sale sign up in front of the house, or maybe there is. How do you find those and then to buy and then put up a new beautiful home?
Oh, sure. That's a fantastic question. I know there's real estate coaches that charge an arm and a leg for that answer. Really, it's all grit. If you see a house you like, may as well go knock on the door, have a conversation. Don't be scared to do that. Most people will be, but most people won't have the success and I guess the wealth you'll have by doing things like that. Get out of your comfort zone, knock on the door, find out who owns it, and have a conversation.
Perfect. Okay, I got to jump to the next person. That was really terrific, Evan. That was really fantastic, and we had some great questions. Thanks for all your answers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greg.
Okay, have a good morning. Our next speakers are Ramir and James, who are from the Manitoba Construction Sector Council, and they're going to talk to you about careers as Journeyperson electricians and a couple other things. Welcome, Ramir and James.
Thank you, Greg, and welcome everybody for joining us and allowing us to introduce ourselves. My name is Ramir Diaz. I'm the coordinator of education and training for the Manitoba Construction Sector Council. I'm also a licensed Red Seal Journeyperson electrician. So what James and I do here at the Manitoba Construction Sector Council is to promote and create awareness of the various career options in the construction industry. We also got a bunch of technology like iPads with construction games built into them, virtual reality headsets which bring you to a virtual construction site, and virtual simulators which allow you to work with power tools and welding equipment in a virtual setting. Right now, we're also creating something within the chainsaw safety awareness. So we play with a lot of technology here. Prior to my role here at the Construction Sector Council, I worked as an apprentice electrician and a journeyperson electrician all over the province and across all sectors of construction. This includes new residential builds and the renovation of existing homes, commercial builds like the Investors Field Stadium, the Human Rights Museum, and even industrial builds like the Bipole 3 transmission project with Manitoba Hydro, as part of my construction electrical learning and work experience. My journey to arriving where I am today is not an easy path, nor was it a straight line in achieving my career goals. Growing up, though, I had a knack for disassembling and reassembling electronics and toys. I was fascinated and curious how things worked, like how lights blinked and how toys moved and how calculators displayed numbers on the screen when buttons were pressed. My parents were not impressed with me opening up the toys they bought me with their hard-earned money, and I don't blame them. My parents had a vision for me to become a doctor, a judge, or a lawyer. And as much as I looked up to my parents for long-term career support, they wanted what was best for them and without considering other career possibilities and strengths that I had. I had to actually figure this out on my own the hard way. So to cut to the chase, I did finish my studies and began working as a pharmacy technician. As I realized that the wage that I had at the time was at the top of the wage scale, I wasn't satisfied. This was when I decided to consider another career possibilities. And just hanging out with my close friends, they supported me to apply for pre-employment electrical. Once I actually completed that, the only obstacles that I had to overcome was getting hired and then proving to my employers that I can become an electrician. When I was in high school, though, I visualized myself becoming a skilled tradesperson, but I still wasn't sure what it actually was going to be at that time. But looking at where I am now, I'm actually very happy with the skilled trade that I possess, as it allows my skills and expertise to be utilized anywhere. Not only does my skilled trade pay well, but it is also a very practical skill to have. Need some lights or more plugs around the house? I can install those. Looking into living off the grid and going solar, or you need an electric vehicle charger installed? I can do that as well. To conclude, I encourage all of you to complete high school and begin exploring career paths that interest you. If you choose or are considering a career path in the construction industry, there are many career choices ranging from, general labor to skilled trades to specialized positions like architects, engineers, and project managers, to even owning your own construction company. The sky is the limit in the construction industry, and with the wide variety of opportunities available, there's always something for everyone. Now, I'm going to actually introduce you to my colleague, MCSC's Community and Youth Liaison, James Murphy, to share some additional insight.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for having us. My name is James Murphy, former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, 1991 to 1982 to 1991. I had a great football career here with the Bombers, winning 3 Grey Cups, and finishing with the chance of opportunity of going into the Bomber Hall of Fame. Just a great career. But after my football career was over, I was left wondering what I wanted to do with my life. So I went into business for myself. I owned and operated a fresh fish market at the Forks for about 10 years. I got bored with that, but I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine who was the president of the Manitoba Home Builders Association. And he offered me a job as a program manager for one of the pre-employment training programs, which led me to where I am today. Now I am the Community and Youth Liaison with the Manitoba Construction Sector Council. And part of my job is to create awareness of opportunities for youth and underrepresented groups in Manitoba. Most people, when they hear construction, they think hammers and nails or getting dirty. But construction means so much more than that. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it have created a wealth of opportunities for millions of young Canadians across Canada, millions of people across Canada. But for me, I'm working, unlike Ramir, I'm working in a administration position. Many larger companies need staff members working in administration positions, office workers, bookkeepers, accountants. They need salespeople, safety officers, truck drivers, forklift operators, estimators, painter decorators. All of these positions are in need to keep the business flowing. Evan, the speaker that was on earlier, is a good indication of how and what can be done, the type of money that can be earned in the construction industry. So the next time you see a contractor vehicle driving down the street, or tradespeople building a house or a building, remember, it takes a team of people to get that job done. And a lot of these people, they started off as maybe a bookkeeper or an accountant, or just office workers or laborers. And after a while, they decided to go into, to become a tradespeople. It doesn't matter how you start. If you decide that a career in construction in Manitoba is something you want to do, the timing couldn't be any better. Right now, each year, more and more projects and developments are happening in our province. A lot of, when you look around at all the potholes in the street, there's a lot of road construction. There's a lot of great opportunities to work in this industry. But if you need more information about a career in Manitoba, please visit our website at www.tradeupmanitoba.com. Just sign in the background, a lot of resource information about how to get started, what the wages are, or you can contact Ramir or myself for more information, and we can help you create a career path.
Perfect. We got a few questions coming in, guys, if we can throw them at you. Somebody's asking about being an electrician. Where in Manitoba would I go to school to get that education? How long would it take me?
Okay, so if you're in high school right now, there is some high school apprenticeship programs that do have the vocational capacity to teach electrical or some skilled trades like carpentry or welding. And I would encourage you to speak to your high school counselor on getting on that, or getting into the high school apprenticeship program. Now, if you're about to graduate and you want to go into post-secondary, you can go to post-secondary college like Red River College or MITT that will have the pre-employment training program there as well. There's also private institutions like the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. They do have an apprenticeship program there as well. So there are many options to becoming an electrician or other skilled tradespeople in the construction industry.
Okay, do you know what the range is as far as what the cost of schooling is for something like that?
The range for schools when it comes to the, okay, so the journey that I took, I did not take the high school apprenticeship program, so I kind of lost that in my high school years. However, when I took the pre-employment program, depending on where the classes are happening at, there may be a waiting list, but you know, if you can still get on that list and then get in, the registration to initially get on is not so bad. It's probably about $300 to $500, depending on which institution you go through. That was kind of the wage that I paid to take the pre-employment. When you go through the next levels, it's about the same wage as well. But keep in mind that when you do go to apprenticeship training, 80% of the time you're actually at a job site, you're hired, you're getting paid. And then 20% of the time, which is about 10 weeks of schooling, you are at the training class during your apprenticeship, which is at Red River College or MITT. And even through then, when you're in school, you can apply for employment insurance. And there are other additional supports and grants that are available depending on how well you're doing within that skilled trade as well.
Okay, you just answered that question. Somebody was asking, do companies still pay for you to be an apprentice? So thank you for that. Somebody asks, what is the fastest growing trade, do you think?
Okay, so right now, we sourced out that welding is a popular trade. Plumbing is also something that's picking up, and even, you know, things like masonry.
Absolutely, framing. When you look around the city, in the province of Manitoba, it's growing in the residential construction. So framers, anything related to building a house, and you look around with the road construction. But that is for a young person coming out of high school, that would be probably one of the best ways to start to work their way up. But road construction and, as Ramir indicated, welding are probably the hottest tickets that's going on for a young person today.
That's perfect. Okay, would you guys remind us one more time the website where students can get more information? And thanks so much for that, guys. That was really terrific.
Yeah, the website is www.tradeupmanitoba.com. And I will put our email addresses for everyone to connect with us as well here at the Manitoba Construction Sector Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Our next speaker is Ryan Lussier. Ryan is well known to JA. He's the regional manager of RBC Financial Planning, Investment, and Retirement Planners. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Greg, and good morning, everyone. It's really nice here, but I also realize that I am between you and probably lunch. So I'm going to make my comments as brief as possible and make sure that I get everybody out on time, because you never want to stand between students and food. This is something I know very well. So at first, I'd love to say a huge thank you to Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement is such a fantastic organization. It's one that's really close to my heart, because when I was a kid, I went to Junior Achievement. I went to a small rural town in rural Manitoba in St. Pierre-Joli. We had Junior Achievement that came out and ran the entrepreneurship program. And so I was lucky enough to be a president in my school 2 years in a row, and a salesperson as well. So it was just such a great organization that really helped give me a leg up into the world of business and finance, and started the passion that I have and set me on the career path that I'm on. And so they've asked me to come and tell you a little bit about my journey, how I got into the wealth management business that I'm in, and kind of how I've evolved with RBC, and answer any questions. So as I mentioned, when I was going to Junior Achievement when I was young, I found out that I was really passionate about investment management or stocks at the time, the whole concept of taking money and putting it somewhere else and making more of it without really any effort aside from moving it from one spot to another absolutely fascinated me. And so growing up, I read tons on investments. I ended up getting a job at the RBC Advice Center when I was 18 years old in customer service. I did that for about a year while I was going to university at the U of M, and transferred over to our Invest by Phone division. And so I really started to learn investments through Invest by Phone. And if you drew the connection between me going to university and having a full-time job, you're right, I had no life. I went to university during the day and I worked an evening shift at night till 2:30 in the morning and did it all over again. So it was a lot of work, but it really did pay off because the organization allowed me to become an investment retirement planner when I was about 22 years old. And so I took all the necessary courses that allowed me to become an accredited financial planner. So that would be your Canadian securities course, your mutual fund courses, your financial planning designation, whether that's through your CFP and PFP. And those accreditations allowed me to come out of the advice center to start advising clients on wealth management. And when you think of what we do day in, day out, when you're an advisory role to clients, it's really helping clients make big life decisions. And what I always found with finances and with investments in particular is that, it keeps Canadians up at night, whether or not I have enough money to retire. Do I have enough money to send the kids to university? Do I have, enough money to upgrade or downgrade my house? All of these financial concerns are on our minds day in and day out. And so as an advisor, I always helped and had a lot of joy in helping clients protect their wealth, grow their wealth, and make sure that their financial goals and dreams were looked after. So I did that for about 10 years, really enjoyed it. And then I worked for Global Asset Management. So Global Asset Management is the mutual fund company that sells the mutual funds to RBC or manages the assets. They manage about 586 billion in assets under management globally. So it's Canada's largest mutual fund company and top mutual fund company in the world. And what I did there is I provided a lot of field support to clients and to advisors. I traveled all over Canada, giving economic updates and talking in front of Canadians about investments and how the stock markets are doing in the economy, something that we definitely need a lot of now since the markets are quite volatile. And then I took over the role that I'm in today, which is leading the team of investment retirement planners. So basically becoming the manager or the leader for the type of job that I used to do, which was advising clients. And so now I currently lead a team of 17 advisors and a couple of associates, and I help them make sure that they're fulfilling the goals for their clients and also making sure that they reach their heights in their career. So that's a little bit about my journey with RBC, my starts, my roots. Where I started all of this is Junior Achievement, so I owe them a lot. Whenever JA asks me anything, I say, yes, absolutely, I will help. I love to. And I am here to answer. Oh, one last thing I might have forgotten around what would I advise someone looking to get into this industry? Well, number one, I'd advise you to follow your passion. So for me, I was an investment nerd and it was my passion. Like I said, putting money somewhere, making more of it, I thought that was really cool. We had lots of great guest speakers on, and what I saw through each and every one of them is that they followed their passion. They found something that they loved, and they applied that passion to their employment. The second piece of advice I would get is always keep learning, keep taking courses, that whatever field you're in, continue to read books, be a specialist, continue to be passionate about what you're doing, and continue to educate yourself so that you can specialize in the area and be an expert in your field. And then the third piece of advice I would give is if you're going to work for an employer. So lots of people are going to become entrepreneurs. You heard quite a few entrepreneurs on the call. But if you are going to work for an employer, I would leave you with something that I always tell my team and people that are looking at RBC, is that the name on the front of your jersey is just as important as the name on the back. So, we got to make sure that the employer that you're working for, you're entrusting your career, your future, your family to these employers. Make sure they fit with your values, your goals, your objectives. Make sure their future is bright. And we're very thankful for all the trust that our employees place in us. So again, the name on the jersey is just as important as the name on the back. And I hope we've got some questions, and then I'm going to let you go and have a fantastic lunch.
Great advice. Kate, rapid fire questions. Can I work at a bank and not like math?
Absolutely. You 100% can. We've got great computer systems.
Okay. Is crypto worth the hype?
Oh gosh. Crypto's a tough one. I've been not a crypto investor for a very long time. And my wife and I had a conversation. She's like, you should really buy some crypto. I said, okay, I'll buy some crypto. And guess what it's done? It's the worst investment I've purchased. So is it worth the hype? I don't know. I don't like it based on my personal experience. So tread cautiously.
You're not advising your clients to get into crypto would be the company line.
No.
Okay. Here's a maybe a more conservative question. If I want to start saving right now, I'm in high school and investing, do I go TFSA or RRSP?
Oh, that's such a great question. That is awesome. So here's what I would say. When you're going through high school and you're working and you're filing taxes, you're actually creating RSP rooms. So that's a good thing. Whenever you're working, creating RSP room, you can let that RSP room roll forward into new years. So what I would advise is use your TFSA, because you're going to be earning higher income once you're done university, and you want to use that RSP room for sheltering the higher income earned. So yes, TFSA first, make your money as a high school student, roll it forward into higher earning years, and sock that money away when you're earning more.
Okay. Do you work long hours? Do you have to work nights and weekends?
That's a great question. I think if you would have asked me that question, years ago, I'd probably pride myself that I do, and I know my team does. But I really want people to find a better work-life balance, myself included, because this career is a long haul, and you can burn yourself out if you do nights and weekends and you never take breaks. And I've got a family, I've got a young daughter. It's important to be there for them. So whatever career you choose, don't burn yourself out. Companies will always be there. Your family is the most important thing. So make sure you balance it.
Okay, and then circling back to Derek, our HR expert, somebody's asking a question about when you're hiring, what are you looking for on a resume? What are you looking for in somebody for the type of job that you would hire for? Did you catch me? Did you hear me, Ryan?
Oh, circling. Sorry, I missed that. I thought you said Derek circling.
Yeah, no. I'm sort of circling back to what Derek was talking about resumes and stuff.
Okay.
So somebody's asking, what do you look for when you're hiring somebody on their resume? What are you looking for when you're hiring them at RBC?
Okay, that's a great question. Sorry. Yes, for my role, it's very specific because we look for accreditation. We need people who are accredited financial planners. So that would be a big plug for those who are heading into university. If you're thinking of getting into the world of finance, we have a massive shortage when it comes to accredited financial planners. So there's two designations that you could get, either the PFP or the CFP. There's actually another designation called the QAFP. You're welcome to reach out to me and I can explain if there's any interest. But really, as you're going through university, these are courses that you should probably start working on as well if you have an interest in finance, because we have a huge shortage, massive shortage in accredited planners. So that is a great golden ticket. So the first thing for my role is I look at, are they accredited or not? Because you have to be accredited in these roles. I would say secondary to that, or if we remove my role specifically, look for RBC, it really is that experience. What have you done? Back to all of the things Derek had talked about, and just having that ability to sit down and connect with you and really understand kind of what you're looking for, that really puts you ahead of the competition. So communication skills, how you present. We also have a lot of internship programs from universities. So if you're interested in RBC, look to get into an internship program with RBC. There's lots and lots of ways.
Perfect. Okay, Ryan, that I really appreciate you joining us, and those are all great answers to some good questions. So thanks again.
My pleasure.
Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of our second World of Choices session. Thanks to our 5 fantastic speakers, and of course, our presenting sponsor RBC Foundation and CNA for their support. I hope everybody enjoyed listening to the business mentors and learned lots today. Teachers, please remember to fill out those surveys. And a reminder, our next session is on Wednesday, May 3rd. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.